Welcome back. Rockford and the arts. That's the topic of discussion on tonight's edition of Panorama. Right now in the Burpee Museum of Natural History, there is a bunch of live reptiles and amphibians crawling around the grounds. Matter of fact, some of those creatures we're going to be meeting this evening in the studio. We'll say hi to them all in a bit, but first I'd like to welcome Dennis Mcfall to the show. He is the owner of these reptiles that are being on exhibit there at the museum, and he is a Love Park herpetologist. Seated next to him is Linda Cornwell, the education director at the Burpee Museum. Thank you both for coming tonight on the show. Looks like we have a lot of live creatures here tonight in the studio. I'd like to first have you, Ms. Cornwell, give an overview of what exactly people can expect when they go to this exhibit at the museum.
Okay, we have these live reptiles and amphibians at the museum, and people can come Tuesday through Saturday 1 to 5 and Sunday 2 to 5. We have about 70 different animals, and that's about 40 some different species. So we have all different kinds of things. And a lot of people are real scared of snakes or whatever, but we urge them to come because it is an educational experience, and it's really very fascinating to see them.
Now, you said 4,500. This is the third year that the exhibit is at the museum. About 4,500 people have already saw the exhibit. What different are they going to be seeing this year than in years past to keep bringing them back and see these reptiles?
Well, each year Dennis has added more animals, and 4,500 people is how many saw it last year.
Yeah, we're trying to increase the size every year. Financially, I'm more or less strapped now, so we are talking to the park district to see if we can get some help. John Halleck seems to be interested in it, so we're going to see if we can put together a larger display with hopefully getting to the crocodilians, the dangerous stuff. We need a building for that. So right now, as long as it's a portable display, I have to stay with the smaller things that are easy to handle.
Now this exhibit consists of both reptiles and amphibians. What are the difference between the two?
Well, here's a typical reptile. It's an eastern box turtle. They're found in southern Illinois. All reptiles have scaly skin. They have claws on their toes. But the main thing between a reptile and amphibian is that the reptiles don't have a larval stage in between the egg and the adult. This is a typical amphibian. It's a tiger salamander. Now, salamanders, all amphibians have moist skin. They don't have any claws on their toes. And all amphibians go from egg to larva to adult. That's the main difference. These are often confused for lizards, but they're not. They're salamanders, and these used to be found pretty commonly in this county. But the places they live are marshes and ponds, and those marshes have been drained for agricultural and subdivision needs.
So they're not very common in this area anymore.
See, they spend most of their life on the ground anyhow. They come out in the spring rains to find breeding ponds, so they're not real commonly seen to begin with, but now their habitat's being taken away, they're even less common.
We have many other types of reptiles and amphibians here. If you can introduce them as such and tell us a little bit about each of them.
We'll go back to the eastern box turtle here. It's a land turtle. They have a high domed shell for protection against compression, such as a dog trying to break its shell. They are called box turtles because they've got a hinge here and a hinge here that makes that shell close completely. You can put his head and feet in both ends and shut up just like a box. This particular one, because it's been in captivity about 2 or 3 years, doesn't like to go in. But a couple of years ago I had a turtle pen where a dog got into it and rolled these things around. I had about 5 or 6 of them. And all of them were protected by using their defense mechanism going into the box. It's very efficient.
Now my favorite here, the snake.
Well, Linda's going to pick that one up. That's a Florida king snake. They're found in Florida. It's a subspecies of the eastern king snake, which is a common pet. They're constrictors. They'll grab a hold of a mouse or bird and suffocate it rather than crush it. Once it's dead, they'll eat it whole. They get to be about 5.5 feet long.
The feeling here is, like you said, like leather. It's not wet or slimy at all.
It's very dry, and a lot of people think that snakes are wet and slimy, and they're not slimy at all. They're very, very dry. This one has real smooth scales. It's sticking its tongue out because it's tasting the smells in the air to see if you're dangerous or not. So it's checking you out.
Now you have another snake with you. Guess a less dangerous one, would you say?
Well, that one's not dangerous either. That's a common pet too. But this one I brought because it's so common in Loves Park and Rockford Yard. It's a plains garter snake. Most of the ones in town here don't have this brick red side on it. They're usually olive green, but they still have the yellow stripe on them.
Is that to blend in with the greenery? Or?
Yeah, see the stripes, you don't really see the importance of the stripes until they're going quickly through the grass. The stripes make them look real long, and it's hard to see where they start and where they end. But this particular snake is so common in Loves Park that everyone living there has got them in the backyard, and I know that a lot of people figure that all snakes are dangerous, they kill them all. Luckily, it's a real adaptable snake. They have large litters, so people haven't wiped them out yet. But I would appreciate if people would just kind of avoid them if possible. You don't have to be friends with them, just try not to destroy them all. All they do is eat worms in town here. And out in the country, they'll eat fish, minnows, and sometimes toads, salamanders.
Okay, I want to get in the last one here before we have to go. This is another type of turtle, it looks like.
Yeah, it's the soft-shell turtle. This one is a bizarre type of turtle. It's got a leathery shell rather than a hard shell. They also are a very aquatic turtle. They got a low profile, so they can go quickly through the water. They have big fins on their, big webbing on their feet, so they can go quickly. This particular one can hide in about 2 inches of mud and stick his neck up and siphon air without getting attacked by any predators.
Okay, you can see these reptiles and more at the Burpee Museum. The exhibit will be on display through July 30th at the Burpee Museum in the Malberg Auditorium. Admission is $2 for adults and $1 for children. You can see that up on your screen now. When I come back, I'll have a more humanly look at the art.